Welcome, movie fans. Thanks for joining us for episode 106 of Reading Between the Reels, the premier podcast of inexplicably losing your accent between movies. If you're a new listener, we're so glad you found us. If you've been enjoying the show, please subscribe and review us on iTunes or Spotify. You can also support the show by posting on your socials and joining our Facebook group. I am Justin Eldon, and I'm joined by co-hosts Corey Heitschmidt and Craig Dickinson. How goes it, fellows?
Good. We're finally back together.
We are. Oh my gosh, this is like the best thing. We're like a united front right now. We're X-Men. The studio finally was able to pay for more than just two of us.
That's right. You have no idea what this is doing to the budget. What have you been watching this week, gentlemen?
Corey, why don't you go ahead and go?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I have been watching Star Wars Next Generation again. I'm on season...
What?
Star Wars.
Star
my
Trek.
gosh, did I say? Oh, that's such a blunder. Oh, the Trekkies and the Star Wars fans are going to hate me on that. I'm getting
That was
canceled.
Corey that said that, audience.
Gosh,
There goes
dang
all
it.
our
Chime in.
subscribers.
There we go.
They're all seven of them. They're gone.
Dang it. No, I've been watching Star Trek Next Generation. I'm back in love with it. I want to get to Picard season 2, but I keep falling in love with Next Generation and just the flow of that whole show. You know, it starts out season 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. It's just, I love where it's going. So anyway, that's where I'm at.
Does the lack of what do they call that? Continuing storyline bug you at all at the beginning of Next Generation?
You know what? It's nostalgic because I do love that. You go back into the 80s and it's standalone episodes. Like you could go pick and watch just a few episodes here and there, and they're all just different stories. They don't really relate. Other than the board part, it's just you could tell the writing was different back then for a series and a show. Nowadays, you're building on something like Battlestar Galactica, which I love that show. That one just builds and builds all the way through it. You know exactly where you're at the moment you pick it up. So this is just random stories and adventures, which is refreshing in a time like today when everything is not that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels less high stakes.
Yes.
And you can kind of just hop in and hop out.
Yeah.
What about you, Craig? What have you been watching?
Well, we finished the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so we watched the 5th one, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and I liked it a lot. I think it's only the second time that I'd seen it, and watching all 5 movies fairly close together, they all felt very much like they were part of the same universe, and they felt like they were basically the same quality. And I enjoyed them. They're silly. They're popcorn movies. I like that it kind of brought things full circle. That we had both Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley show up in this movie, and their son is in it, and then Barbossa has a kid. Spoiler. It was fun. So watched that, and then I watched a couple of films that I've been meaning to watch since the summer and just never got to them. I watched Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, which was not good. It's like the Fast and the Furious of monster movies. It's not good, Corey.
He has a mechanical transformer arm.
Yeah, I need more. I need more. There was a few moments, but I got bored pretty quickly. But I've now seen them all. I had that was a completion thing. I just need to finish. But what I did I saw Twisters, and I really actually liked that a lot. And I didn't think I would. I mean, I'm a big Glenn Powell guy. Anybody that knows me knows that I like Glenn Powell.
I love Glenn Powell.
I thought it was a really well made, very entertaining. The first 20 minutes or so I thought was really gripping, and then they're like, oh shoot, and there's some real pathos in that movie, and then special effects are great. I know that it got a lot of praise for not doing a lot of key jangling like a lot of legacy sequels do, but I think this one actually could have used a little bit more. There's, again, spoil it, there's no Helen Hunt cameo, and there very easily could have been. I think there was a very natural place to do that. Dorothy, the machine that has the little balls in it, that shows up at the beginning. That's literally the only thing that connects and the title to the original film. But it works good as a standalone, I thought. And I was entertained by that. So it's really all I wanted.
Was there no Bill Paxton cameo in there?
Nothing. There was no reference to any of the events or characters from the first film.
So it's a standalone sequel.
Yeah, very much so.
What's the term for that? I don't know. We talked about that one time, what these types were, but
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a reboot. There was clearly it was definitely legacy, meant to evoke that
legacy. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's kind of a bonus. David Corenswet, new Superman, is in it briefly. Not a big part, but it's just kind of fun to just kind of see where we're going for this next summer, which is
Craig,
exciting for me. I'm a huge Superman guy.
Did you ever finish Battlestar Galactica? You were watching that a few weeks ago.
No, I'm still in season 3. It's kind of back and forth for me as far as being
season
entertaining.
3 kind of bogs a little bit. Season 4, man, I'll know when you get there. I was like, there's no way he finished this and didn't say something to me about the end because it's so.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's a lot of
M. Night Shyamalan.
It's been told, it's been said so many times that this show is just great. It's one of the greatest sci-fi shows ever, and I hear this all, and it's like, it's good. It's a solid, like B- as far as sci-fi shows.
It's hard when you go in with such
that.
high expectations.
Yeah, it's fine. I've enjoyed watching. I'm glad I'm watching it, but it's not like I have to watch another episode now. I don't feel that way at all. So, Justin, what about you? What have you been watching?
Yeah.
I have been watching Lost. I've been rewatching Lost. I haven't seen it.
I think since
once it came out, and I'm just gonna pretend like I don't know that the ending is going to be a massive disappointment.
I love it.
Because right now I am enjoying the crap out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun. It's nice not waiting for the episodes to come out week to week because it's like, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, I could just click the next button on Netflix. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And no, I am not counting the amount of plot holes that I know are going to occur. It leaves so much. There's so much like, ooh, mystery. And then it never talks about so much of it. It's just
You've seen this before? Or this is your first time?
I've seen it before,
know there's plot holes coming.
When it came out, like I watched it week to week when it first came out. And
so, Corey, you've not seen it?
Yeah,
I have not, and I've been meaning to watch it. I've kind of got it in my. I'll put it on the list. It's on my list with Captain America. Stuff to watch. Up there with The Godfather. I just haven't done it. That and Yellowstone. I just
that one just came back.
I couldn't get into Yellowstone. I tried. It was Beth.
Yeah,
freaking Beth.
It's your Kelly Riley bias. Yeah, that just started up again. I'm not going to spoil what happened, but like you know right away, like there's a big spoiler in like the first 5 minutes. So, yeah.
The other thing I've been watching, I just finished The Substance. My word, I would not recommend that movie because it is. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting what I saw. It is gross and disgusting and just like. Nobody was asking for this. I'm sure someone is going to like that, but it was a lot of body horror stuff, and they lean into it a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. It was like a well done movie. Like it, like the acting was great, the writing was really great. They leaned into the body horror stuff a lot. It was gross.
Yeah, it's a pass for me.
The Substance. That's a hard pass for me. I'm not into that dirty, filthy stuff.
Yeah, it was icky.
Hey, let's talk about something cool. Let's talk about what we're talking about this week. X2, X-Men United. Corey, you surprised me when we first got on.
Gosh, dang it!
I'm going to put you on the spot.
You're putting me on the spot first,
and then we'll build back up. How do you feel about X2, Corey?
Okay. When this movie came out, I went and watched it in the theaters. Craig, I don't know if we were rocking together back then because I don't know if I watched it with you or not, but I remember going to see it with somebody. And I liked it. I thought, oh, it's a good movie. And now I watch it with different lenses, different eyes, and all the everything. And to me, it was kind of just ho-hum. I have some highlights for it. I think it's great. I think the locations and the set design in this are absolutely fantastic. This is not CGI here on this stuff. Like these set locations were actually built. It's kind of like Blade, which was, you could tell there wasn't that CGI backgrounds that you got in Star Wars at this time. Like, because around this time, Star Wars, what year was this? 80 or 2000?
It's 2003. So
2003.
Attack of the Clones came out the previous summer.
Right, and so with how much Clones was doing in CGI, you would think they would start doing that, but you could tell they weren't doing it. So I'm going to highlight that. But here's the thing that I was thinking of as I was getting ready for this. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. I just thought it was kind of boring because it's the superhero aspect, like superhero movie, but there's not really superhero stuff going on. It's just superpowers. That they're all mutants and they're they're kind of off trying to fight it. There's nobody rescuing a cat out of a tree or saving a lady stepping in front of a bus. There's none of that stuff. That's not anything that they're doing with their powers. And so, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to think about that. I was like, it's more of a kind of a drama of them trying to stop each other from getting killed by this overpowered, greedy guy, who, by the way, is incredible. I mean, I'm going to highlight the cast in here. This is top-notch cast all the way through, top to bottom. And Hugh Jackman is very different Wolverine in this one. You could tell this is him starting the role versus the last one we watched, Deadpool Wolverine. But it's just kind of a ho-hum movie for me. It's there. It's good. It's all right.
I think a big difference between this and other superhero movies, like most superhero movies are like man versus man, right? Like, if we think about like literature conflicts, this, like in X-Men in general, has always been more of a man versus society. So they're not doing like the typical superhero stuff.
You're right.
They're more just like fighting for their existence or their place within the culture, I guess.
Which is why maybe I could forgive Logan for Wolverine for when he gets there to the base at the end and goes running off on his personal vendetta against Stryker, fights the other Wolverine gal, and then all of a sudden catches back up with him in the tunnel. Like, that was a little bit of a plot hole. I was like, oh, well, that's just convenient. That's just lazy writing. You know, like he just happens to come back at the right time and save the day. Don't go that way. Okay, so it was kind of mixed in there.
See, I liked that scene because earlier Magneto made fun of him. And he's like, "What are you going to do? Scratch it with your claws?" Mm-hmm. And then they're going to run down that tube, and he like stabs it with his claws and like shuts it. He does scratch it with his claws, and it works out.
Which, scientifically, wiring wise, electrician wise, I'd like to know how a razor blade slicing a wire is going to suddenly shut an emergency door that repels back.
If I've learned anything from Star Wars, you can shoot a wall panel that has that activates a door. You can open the door if you want it to open, or you can close the door if you want it to close. Or you can jam the door. No matter what you want it to do, shooting it or stabbing it is going to make that thing happen.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
That's
okay.
That's the rules, Corey. I don't make the rules. I'm sorry.
And then just some of these powers. I got to tell you, here's my one thing. Last thing before I let you guys talk about this. Is there's a million mutants, right? So he's going through Cerebral to try and figure out where all these mutants are. And I'm thinking, holy cow, the world's full of mutants. And I would be thinking, if I was a mutant, I would hope I would get some really cool powers and not some weird power. Like that's like the one kid with the frog tongue. I'm like, what are you going to do with that? I mean, well, it's like, I don't know what kind of superpowers people are getting. Like I know in the next one, the one guy shoots like pine cones out of his wrists. Okay. Like, that's kind of a weird
needles,
superpower.
Man.
They're needles. Yeah, like, give me something cool, something cool power that I want that. Wolverine's powers are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's just a guy with claws. Like, what's he?
And healing factor.
Well, the healing factor makes it.
Quick side notes. A couple of my favorite stupid power mutants that aren't mentioned. So there's one in the comics. His name is Bailey Hoskins, and his superpower, or his mutant ability, is to blow up. Like he can explode, but only the once.
What?
Like he just that's it. He just
how does he know?
But
it's like,
hey, no regenerative power.
It's the guy from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
He did that once. Remember, he blew up one time. See, right there, it's a superpower. It's a mutant. This is in the same universe now. I got a
and then
fan theory.
my favorite mutant power is I forget the guy's name. I'm trying to look him up, but he has the ability, like, the second you don't see him anymore, you forget that he existed.
Oh.
So he's actually an X-Men, and there's an entire series about him where, like, the X-Men are consistently being like, who the heck is this guy? And he's like, I've been an X-Men this whole time. And he's just like forever, nobody knows who he is, but he shows up every so often. And
Gotcha.
like Xavier and Wolverine and everyone is just like, why are you wearing an X-Men uniform? He's like, I've been part of the team this entire time.
That's fun.
I think his name
would
is
like the
Forget-Me-Not.
Iceman guy who cools off Logan's pop.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Bobby Drake.
That's a good superpower.
That's a useful one.
Yeah. Justin,
all right, what about you guys? Let's talk about you X2 lovers that love it.
I love this movie, but
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is nostalgia. Like, I think it's actually a legitimately good movie if I take nostalgia aside. The pacing is a lot of fun. We have some really awesome scenes, like some of the best scenes in a superhero movie. We have the Magneto escaping from his plastic prison, which is awesome. Too much iron.
That was amazing.
Oh,
that was
fantastic.
amazing
And
scene.
the opening scene of Nightcrawler, like that, holds up so well to like movie standards of today. It's like terrifying. It's quick paced, and it's not so ridiculous. You're like, that could never happen. You're like, no, a guy with like teleporting powers. It seems like that could totally happen. That was absolutely fantastic. I think where it really struggles, and I think we see this a lot in the MCU now as well, is like it can't. It's like being crushed by the own weight of its characters. Like there are so many characters and so little character development because there's so much time developing the character of Wolverine. Like for example, Cyclops. Fantastic, like very interesting character. If anyone has ever seen like X-Men '97, the new animated series that picks up off of the X-Men TV show from the '90s. Like Cyclops is awesome. He's a very like deep three-dimensional character, and both of these movies, and especially the third one, like really snubs Cyclops.
Sure.
Just don't give him a whole lot of screen. I mean, he's off the screen for most of it, and then when you do see him finally doing his stuff, he's under mind control. So
like
just like an over focus on Wolverine, when I think other characters could probably have their part to play. And then all of these movies have to find a way to nerf Xavier. Like, he's obviously one of the more powerful mutants, and he could do so much if he wanted to. And the writers, I think, just kind of have to like figure out a way to write him out every single time.
I think you're right, Justin, because that's the frustration I had. I felt like, okay, we got X-Men came out, and that was kind of a hit. So I felt like we got a sequel. And in the sequel, the one everybody loved, Wolverine, it's like, okay, we got to bring it. We focus all on him, and we think we're going to do something. No, we're going to write it up to where now we got to make a third one. And then, even in the third one, we're not going to establish who he is. We got to go back to X-Men Wolverine Origins, right? Like, we got to go to the next one. Like, it's like Wolverine's story, and the X-Men are just coming along with it, is what I think my frustration was, being this 24 years later, to where Ryan Reynolds looks at the uniform he's about to put on and says, "Oh, that only took 24 years to get there." Like, because he's finally going to wear the suit. Like, like it's like it was just too long to get there. I needed more with Wolverine in his story, not to set up a third, fourth, fifth.
I think a lot of that stems from the comics. Like, Wolverine is by far the most famous X-Men in the comics, and I think they wanted to do that in the movie. And then Wolverine's backstory wasn't even a known thing for a really, really long time. It wasn't until like the early 2000s that they actually came out with a Wolverine comic that explained his backstory, and we don't even get that until what's the origin, the Wolverine origin movie.
Yeah, X-Men
like that
Origins
kind of
Wolverine.
follows the comic a little bit. So this over focus on Wolverine, I think they're just doing what they thought the fans wanted, but it's not as fun. It doesn't translate as well to film because you don't have as much like screen time to fill it up as you would in, say, like a physical comic. What do you think, Craig?
Those are all fair. The first thing that I want to point out is that this movie is significantly longer than the first one. So it's 134 minutes, which I think is really interesting. And not so much that it's longer than that movie, but that it's longer than the theatrical cut of Daredevil. Because, like, as we talked about in our last episode, the studio was very much like, we need to have an hour and a half long film. Like,
yes.
And they cut so many things. And like we talked about ad nauseum in the last episode about why the director's cut was so much better, because it had everything in it that it needed to have. And so I kind of find it ironic that I'm hoping the studio just learned that, audience members can handle a 2-hour movie. Because this movie is very stuffed, full of things. There's no doubt about that. But it is. They finally said, hey, it's longer. Maybe they're starting to trust audiences a little bit more. You see that a little bit with the uniforms as well. I mean, I was going to have this later, but now's a good time as any. That you're starting to see a little bit more color in them, and they're more specific. Like Wolverine's has, it's black, but it has like yellow piping now, and like Bobby Drake Iceman has like white and stuff. So there's a little bit more of that, and the big X across the chest as well. I also love the opening sequence. Like that still holds up. It is remarkable how well that scene holds up, and it just immediately pulls you into the film. This is a character you don't know at all. And you get to see on display really quickly, like who this guy, like you don't know who he is, but you get to see what he can do really, really quickly, and pulls you right in the film. And this is most of what I have for camera work is just how dynamic that is.
Well, and I feel like it kind of shows the scare that Homo sapiens might have for the mutants, because like in the first one they kind of talk about it, but this one it's like, this one guy can infiltrate the White House and get to the president in a matter of minutes.
Yep,
it's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, Senator Kelly even mentions in that first movie, like, there's a girl who can walk through walls, and like we talk about the dangers of that, right? And this is the difference of telling versus showing, right? You get to see it in action, and like this guy, if he wanted to, could easily go and get into any secure building and do whatever he wanted. That's it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wolverine obviously is probably the biggest thing in this. Like his backstory kind of drives this story. One thing I thought was interesting was that the original cut was R, and then they had to cut it down, and I'm assuming it's because of and I actually some of the research I saw was because of the attack on the X-Mansion, where we get to see not quite full berserker rage as much as we do in Logan, but we see it's bloodless, but it's pretty stinking violent. And like for longtime comic fans, it was like we get to see Wolverine actually be Wolverine, which was pretty great.
The first kill he did, I noticed that detail on the fridge when he put the claws on him and he went berserker yell. He screamed in his face as he killed the guy, and then when the guy fell, the holes were in the fridge. Did anybody catch that? Because I always think, like, is he really like just knifing right through people?
I'll have to watch that for next time.
Oh man, he sliced right through him, and there's 6 holes right in the fridge as the guy falls down, and no blood, which I was like, oh, why didn't you put the blood there?
That's how you get a PG-13 rating.
13.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just the last thing I was going to say was Bryan Singer's on record, and it's pretty obvious if you've seen the movie that this is very much, especially the ending, is the Star Trek II Wrath of Khan of the X-Men movies. Like the way that ends with the ending narration where Jean Grey says the thing, and then you have the shot of where she was dead, just like you have a Spock in the end of Star Trek II. That's what it is, Corey.
This you cannot. How dare you, sir?
I didn't say it was as good as Star Trek II Wrath of Khan.
Podcast.
But it is absolutely an homage to the Wrath of Khan.
Listen, you might be right about that. There's a lot in this movie looking back that I feel like is either pulled from other shows like that or other shows pulled from this. Jean Grey's sacrifice at the end was Star Wars Rebels, Kanan's sacrifice all the way. That's exactly what that was.
Well, this came before that, though.
I know. And so I feel the writers, Filoni, took it from this like that. It was the exact same scene, scenario, everything. There was nothing different there, other than the fact that she wasn't blind, like Kanan was.
Or maybe Filoni took it from Star Trek.
Like,
no?
Where did Star Trek have a sacrifice like that?
Spock in Star Trek 2.
But
he's blind in that too.
Safety by holding back with the Force, like
they're big borrowing.
I see
what you're saying.
This movie has made waves through other cinema because of that. I'm not gonna take away from that at all. I feel like that when I watched that scene, I was sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, this is Star Wars Rebels, right here."
Sure. I mean, when I wrote Rebels reviews, most of what I talked about was homages from other things, because there's always lots of things they're borrowing from, and all the animated stuff especially. Justin, do you have anything else that you wanted to say?
Oh, no. I'm good.
Okay. So let's go ahead then and move down to cinematography. So composition, color, camera work. What kinds of things did you guys notice that you wanted to discuss?
Well, I'm going to talk about the camera work. I feel like this is the guy who did Superman Returns, right?
Correct.
And I feel like there's a lot of influences in there. Like I felt like Superman Returns, there were some similar things to it. I'm going to tell you the music towards the end for the credits, I felt like was a straight kind of felt very Superman returny. So I
Same
figured
as John Ottman both times, yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of thought, oh, that was kind of interesting. But as far as the scenes, I think the very beginning, the thing I noticed on the camera work with the White House invasion was everything was between. There was always something in the foreground that was blurred, and you were looking through. There's two guys standing, and you were looking through them, and you saw the president in the background. Or they were over here, and you were looking through the doorway into a room. There was always something blocking. Right? And it kind of set the tone that someone is sneaking. There's someone in the shadows, someone creeping. Right? And I thought that was an intentional setup, which made that whole opening sequence phenomenal. I mean, I agree with you. That was incredible. They were shooting blindly. They didn't have just blew holes all through the Oval Office, didn't even care, and never touched him. So I thought that was kind of an interesting camera work. So
the tracking in that scene as well, like the ability to film a scene where your main subject is teleporting does not seem like a very easy scene to film.
No.
But at no point, like some scenes are kind of disorienting, right? Not in this film, but some fight scenes, like they're hard to film. Look at the Jason Bourne movies.
Yeah.
But this one did a good job of like you always knew where you were at in the room. At no point where you're like, oh wait, where's this again? Like I don't know where I'm at. Like the establishing shots before a lot of the action happened were fantastic, and I feel like it kind of kept up with that for the entire film. Like a lot of the scenes are a little bit harder to do because you're doing things that like don't exist in real life, right? But you're trying to put it on a backdrop of things that do exist in real life. Like this is a very grounded film with some extraordinary powers, and they did a good job of like highlighting the mutant abilities while also contrasting it with the real world. Mm-hmm. Maybe even more so than the first one, because in this one you have a lot of like Stryker and his goons versus the mutants, and it does a good job of like showing the close-up expressions of Stryker's men and like their legitimate fear. Like for example, that scene where you got all the guards in the hallway and Magneto's kind of coming around the corner and all the pins of the grenades come out.
Oh yeah.
These are like, you can assume like pretty battle-hardened mercenaries or whatever they might be. And they're all pretty terrified in that scene, and it does a good job of showing them all collectively, but then individually, like up close to their face, if that makes sense.
That scene was incredible. Magneto is he's absolutely one of the best characters in this whole show. Mm-hmm. And listen, just to step in there, I'm sorry, Magneto and Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman, those three people together. If you've ever watched the Graham Norton show, when they're on there together, Hugh Jackman was on there with both of those two guys. And you can tell he loves those two men like they are his parents, kind of just the way he talks to them and listen. There's such a brotherhood between them. So they must be super close on this and I think that adds to their characters and how they play them. So
yeah, no, I think they've formed real friendship by making these movies. Some things that I noticed, cinematography-wise, some quick shots. And I had to pause it because I knew there was Easter eggs in this stuff. When Mystique is looking for Magneto, and she goes into Stryker's office and she pulls up the files. I don't know if you guys took a look at this, but Magneto, yes, Gambit is in there. Remy LeBeau.
Sorry,
yeah.
I had to beat to it.
Yeah, because it's it's Eric Lencher, so it's L. So yeah, Remy LeBeau is in there. Jamie Madrox, who will make an appearance in the third movie, Multiple Man, is on that page. But my favorite one is that you have down there, you have Maximoff and then parentheses 2. So you can assume that if you were to click on that Pietro and Wanda would be on the next screen. So that's fun. Just little, hints at what's to come. Some things color-wise that I thought was interesting is in Stryker's offices and in his underground lair, there's this kind of cold, sterile green, almost like just a really nasty, uncomfortable green, and it's the same one that you also see in the really harsh green lighting in Logan's Dream and Flashback. So like that's kind of his poison color. I mean, that's that new color theory with that color green it's not good. It's poison. Like a lot like the a lot of the Disney animated stuff, green is for evil. Like you see that even like in Maleficent live action.
At the end of the film too, he's wearing that green like trench coat as well.
Yep. So very intentional color choices there. On the other hand, which I thought was really interesting, when you go to the church in Boston where they find Nightcrawler, like, just because of like it's broken windows and like it's going to be physically cold in that room, right? It's torn down, but the lighting is so warm because it's like it's gold in there. I thought that was really interesting. Like, this was a sanctuary for him, even though it, from another lens, it looks like it would be a pretty nasty place. Some other things I thought was really cool. I know we talked about with X-Men. There was a close up, like when Sabretooth shows up, that they zoom in on Logan's eyes. There's this great sequence that they're really illustrating his Wolverine's powers, like especially the powers we don't usually talk about, like his senses, right? Heightened senses. That this one does a couple of things with that. When Stryker's guys invade the mansion, they do have an extreme close up on Logan's ear to let us know that he's hearing them before we see them. So I thought that was cool. That is consistent, that through line that we're seeing those powers. Then the one last thing I want. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, with your last thing, I want to.
Just the last thing I want to say was with the conversation with Bobby and his parents, where he essentially comes out to them as a mutant, which is a hilarious scene. But it's super awkward, and a lot of that is also augmented by the fact that you have this extreme high and Dutch angle looking down from a corner of the room. Like, it almost looks like a security camera. It's really off-putting, and you know that it's just adding awkwardness to that conversation. You see it a couple different times, and it stands out really, really brightly that it's a weird angle.
What was the point of the camera dissolve with Wolf in Wolverine's face? Did anybody catch that early in the show? Because he's Wolverine, not Wolverine. And they did that where they kind of heightened on it. And I know, we kind of heightened on that part, like he's like a mutant with the super sense and the smell. But I just was like, why are we going with a wolf? He's Wolverine.
He's a lone.
Because wolves are cooler than Wolverines.
That's true.
Have you ever seen a Wolverine?
So.
Wolverines aren't
they're
cool
not very
in real
cool.
life.
Wolverines are very cool in real life.
What if you ran across an actual Wolverine in the forest and be like, what the hell is that thing?
Just
as a kid, I went to the zoo and I'd never seen a Wolverine, and like my brother and I were super stoked to go see the Wolverine exhibit because we're like, oh yeah, comic Wolverine. So disappointed.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna have retractable claws and like be ferocious. Man,
was it yellow and black? No.
Yellow and brown. There a story about? Go ahead, Justin.
Oh no, I know what you're going to. He didn't know that Wolverines were real or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought they were
Hugh
wolves,
Jackman.
right?
Yeah. That's pretty. Sorry. Yeah, Wolverine probably would have been cooler.
Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else visually before we talk about the sound?
I thought they did a really good job of, and probably for budgetary reasons and maybe CGI reasons, I think Mystique transforms a total of like 9 or 10 times in this movie, but I think you only see it, and I could be wrong. I didn't write this down, but I'm just off the top of my head. I think you only see it happen once. Every other time she like goes behind a pillar, and you hear the transformation sound, and all of a sudden she's another person. The only time you actually see it is in the bathroom at the bar when she's putting the iron in the guy's butt.
Or in the tent with Wolverine, but
with Wolverine, she was trying to.
That's right.
But I know what you're
I'm a
saying.
liar.
Like, they've established the shorthand with that sound effect, where you know when you hear that ripple sound, that's what's happened. So that's a good catch.
And the one in the bathroom though, like that one has not aged super well. It does not look very good. So I'm like, I'm okay with you not showing this very often.
Mm-hmm.
I love that part though.
In the tent.
I will admit, I think that's hilarious that she does that, and she puts iron in his blood and saves Magneto. Like, it's
a great plan.
That's just good.
Never trust a beautiful woman, especially one interested in you. Love that.
God dang it.
Solid burn, Eric. Oh man.
Yeah.
So, no, I actually had Mystique's the bubbling morphine sound as one of the effects that stood out to me in this one, and I don't think I put 2 and 2 together, Justin, but I think you said it really well. That really the reason that stuck out to me is that I'm hearing that more than I'm seeing the actual visual effect, and I don't need to see the visual effect.
Yeah.
But what I do see and I hear is the BAMF, the Nightcrawler teleporting sound. Which, I mean, that's right in it. Oh, it's so cool.
That is a good one.
Somebody had to make that sound up, and kudos.
It worked. I don't know how I feel about the ridiculous amount of smoke that he leaves behind every time he does it. I know in the comics he does a little bit, but it is just like it's excessive in this one to the point where like in that White House scene, one of the rooms was just completely filled with blue smoke. And I'm like,
Yeah. Is that really
I guess
to
it
his
adds to, like,
dad
I
who
think
we
he
see
has
in
a
First
smell.
Class?
It
Because
made me
his
wonder if
dad's
that's-
like half demon or something, right? Azazel? Is that?
Yeah, I don't-
Or Azrael?
I don't know if that's comic accurate. I'm not sure.
He said that. He made a
don't know.
comment about that.
I'm one of those names was wrong because I said two different things. I don't remember what his name is.
His
So it's one
mom
name.
in the comics is Mystique.
That's
though,
true.
So
Yep. They have one nice scene together, but they don't address that in this.
I mean, they're both blue. You know,
Yeah,
it's implied.
it's a good scene
Maybe.
though. I really like the scene. I like Lady Deathstrike cracking her knuckles as foreshadowing.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
that's
fantastic.
pretty cool. Like what's going on with this lady, and like you get to see it, and we would have the same reaction that Logan has. So good.
And he's not even worried in that scene either. Like he's more just like surprised. And then
Yeah.
there is a point in that fight between Logan and Lady Deathstrike that he realizes that she can heal, and then he's like, "Oh, that's not good.
That's not cool.
This is not going to be fun."
Another thing from that scene that I love is when he fills her full of adamantium, and the sound that her head hits when it hits the bottom of the tank is so good.
It was like just dropping a weight.
It felt authentic, and I know
Yeah.
it's fake, obviously, but it's just like, yep, that's what it should sound like.
Yeah. That's what. Oh,
that is
man.
a little bit of a bad or sad scene though, just because, I mean, she's under mind control, right?
Yep.
And I think at the end there you kind of feel sympathetic, which lends itself to the idea like she has like the adamantium tears coming out of her eyes.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that's a good
Yes. Oh, it's poetic.
That would hurt.
One
That would
sound
really
that I
hurt.
absolutely love is Brian Cox's voice. Okay, Stryker's voice. That guy is such a good villain in any movie, and he does when he gets up into his sons and whispers for it. It always sends chills to me because you know he's such a good villain. I don't think this guy has played a good guy in any movie. He always plays a bad guy.
Long
And
kiss
he always
goodnight, baby.
plays somebody that is corrupt and government driven. And no, but like he has such a distinctive voice and how he says things that you can't trust him. You don't trust him. You know, anytime he's telling you something, you're like, "Oh, you're spinning this, you bastard." Oh, sorry.
You know what? He does McDonald's ads now. He's the
That's
voice
true.
for McDonald's.
Which
and
is so
I
weird.
I'm like, I don't want to eat there. I don't trust this place
Well, they
anymore.
just killed some people with listeria. Yeah, like
Yeah, he'll
see?
even do like the very calm, like ba da ba ba ba, and I'm like, no,
No, it's not soothing when Brian Cox tells you to eat
I'm
McDonald's.
going to Burger King.
Now
Forget
I'm
this.
out. Yeah.
I love him.
I love that I get to say long kiss goodnight, Justin, and watch you cringe.
I know, bingo. Craig
Love that
mentions
movie
Long
so
Kiss
much.
Goodnight.
great movie.
Soundtrack. I have to talk about a couple of things. One is thanks to David W. Collins, who does the beautiful soundtrack show, which I miss dearly. I know what Dies Irae is now, so I caught that. It actually says it on the subtitles too. When a Nightcrawler comes into the White House, there is Dies Irae, which means it's Latin for Day of Wrath. Think about that. Which is part of Mozart's Requiem in D minor. So hey, look at that. We clashed up the joint pretty good there. Some Mozart in this movie. Day of Wrath, though.
Premier
Dies Irae.
podcast of classy Mozart references.
So good. Same main title. John Ottman this time, who's normally the guy who does the music for Bryan Singer and edits as well. He's the editor and the music guy, so that's kind of impressive. There's a couple of things that I liked. There's two tracks I specifically liked, and the one is a little bit on the nose, actually quite a bit on the nose. The Wolverine versus Deathstrike fight. The name of that track is Death Strikes Deathstrike. Again, on the nose. But it has this very, like almost sounds like Psycho with this driving strings and the percussion. It's really high and really frantic, and I love that so very much because I'm immediately associating that with Norman Bates and killing Janet Leigh in the shower. And then the last song is called Evolution Leaps Forward, and that's the one where you have Gene narrating the end, and it's very Star Trek 2 into the main title. I love that last track.
I do like all of the similar to like Mystique's transformation noise, like you have so many leitmotifs of so many characters in here that without anything even being said, you can like visualize their motivations or like their fears or where they're coming from. Like Magneto's theme and as well as like Wolverine's theme.
Yeah.
They're all there and they clash in such a way And it's crazy how quickly they establish those themes. I know they're around in the first film as well, but you have like Magneto's theme when he's in the Blackbird talking to Pyro, and like you can see just like that subtle manipulation of Pyro to just like plant that seed of an idea in his head to eventually like pull him over. And so like good. He's very intentional, and the music lends itself to that. He's like this intentional manipulator. I think that's where his real power is his ability to bring people to his cause.
I like that. And you guys caught the diegetic music. There's a very famous sample diegetic music in this one, especially in terms of...
Oh, yeah. I totally got that. Yep.
Yeah.
What is diegetic for those new listeners that are still working on their vocabulary? I'm just trying to help them out.
Again, diegetic music is music that the characters can hear or play themselves. When they turn on the stereo in Cyclops' car,
and then plays "Baby" or was it "Bye Bye Bye" with
yes.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a foreshadowing, I suppose, for Deadpool and Wolverine. But I love the grimace that they have because NSYNC was still huge at this point, and so to see them all go I
didn't even catch that. That
is foreshadowing.
Wolverine.
I
think that's why they did that?
Well,
do you think it's intentional?
I don't know if it's. I don't know. That's a deep cut. If it is, it's a 20+ year cut. But it's.
I mean, that's what that whole movie is. That whole movie is a 20+ year deep cut.
You think Ryan Reynolds doesn't know that song was used in X2?
Oh, he does.
No chance that he didn't know that song was used. So yeah, I just love the irony of that Wolverine is disgusted by hearing that, as is all the youths are disgusted by that as well.
The youths.
I like NSYNC. I'm not gonna hide it. I liked it as a kid. I like it as an adult. You can all suck it.
You're significantly younger than us, though, Justin. It's okay. That's a good song. It's catchy.
Throw that out there. Jeez.
There you go. One last thing that I had on this is that we do have we see him briefly on it would go under vocal sounds up on the TV. We have another Easter egg cameo.
Hank McCoy. The Beast is in this movie briefly.
Was it Brendan? Was it Fraser?
No.
Okay.
No.
Someone else, wasn't it? I didn't see that.
And according to the subtitles, he's talking to Sebastian Shaw.
Oh.
Who's Kevin
really?
Bacon's character from First Class. Yeah.
Interesting. I did not catch that.
Yeah.
I might not have listened to the subtitles.
Yeah.
I guess you gotta. That might be a thing. You have to watch subtitles now. They give you more information.
I always got to watch the subtitles because I miss stuff if I don't. Anything else for sounds before we talk about performance?
No, I'm good.
All right. So solid performances all over, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing that stands out.
I'm still not a fan of Rogue. I don't like that actress.
I am not a fan of Rogue. I think she's miscast. I don't know who she is. She just seems to...
Anna Paquin. She's Academy Award winner, Anna Paquin.
She's great as an actress.
That bugs Schmidt. Yep. Yeah, she's fine. Lines of dialogue, though, that you liked?
Oh, man. So many. What are you professor of? Art. I love that. Great.
I like William Stryker when he says, Sergeant, kill everyone that approaches, even if it's me. Like, that was just... Because he knows that there are, rogues out there. It just is hilarious. Just kill anyone that approaches, even if it's me. So,
yeah.
I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
This isn't a particular good line, but the way it's delivered by Brian Cox is fantastic. Where he's talking to Wolverine. If you knew the kind of person you used to be, the work we did together, people don't change, Wolverine. You were an animal then, and you're an animal now. I just gave you claws. That's well delivered, and also just crushing for Wolverine, who's searching for a deeper meaning in his life, and he's just you're the same person, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason the freaking X-Men timeline in the movies is so frustrating, because we have the X-Men Origins, the Wolverine X-Men Origins film, which is a movie, but it's is this the same Stryker that's in X2? Is this a different Stryker that's in X2?
Yeah, continuity is wonky for sure.
Yeah, it's very weird.
What I thought was interesting, I'm going to bring up the conversation between Nightcrawler and Storm, because Nightcrawler this is the second superhero movie we've done in a row with a devout Catholic in a very prominent role. And he says, outside the circus, most people are afraid of me, but I didn't hate them. I pitied them. Do you know why? Because most people will never know anything beyond what they see with their own two eyes. She says, well, I gave up on pity a long time ago. And he says, someone so beautiful should not be so angry. And here's the kicker. She says, sometimes anger can help you survive. And he says, so can faith. Oh, and it's right out there. And
that's a great, yeah.
So. I'd like to highlight that in that scene, she doesn't have an accent. That's really weird, you know?
Yeah.
You know, maybe between films, she, went to some, like, speech classes to, like, lessen the impact of her accent. That's my headcanon, at least.
I think in between movies, she won an Academy Award and probably just said, I'm not doing that anymore.
I'm kind of a big deal now. You can't make me have an accent.
I'm kind of thinking that's what happened. Other lines that you guys liked?
Magneto's little stab at Rogue. The we love what you've done with your hair.
Yeah.
Since he caused that in his attempt to kill her.
Yeah.
I do like when he finds out it's Cyclops' car, and he just says, "Oh yeah," and then he shoves his claw in there and hot wires it into the dash. Doesn't care. So like, there's a lot of dialogue where you kind of see that tension between Cyclops and Wolverine.
Yeah. You guys took most of mine, but I'm going to quote, because I really, really do like it, the line that you had, Magneto and Pyro, what he says there. And he says, what's your name? And he says, John. He says, what's your real name, John?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and he shows him he says Pyro, and then he shows him with the flame, and he says, quite a talent you have there, Pyro. And he says, I can only manipulate the fire. I can't create it. And then Magneto says the clincher, and I love this so much, Justin, that you brought it up. You are a god among insects. Never let anyone tell you different.
I had that line down because that was powerful.
If I had a guy tell me that, and I was, 16,
yeah.
It'd be hard not to listen to that guy.
The thing is, I don't like him. I don't like Pyro because he's know what? Who I like? I like Bobby. I like the Iceman guy, and always thought he was a great character. And I love when he headbutts him. You should have stayed in school in the next one. That's a great line. So,
spoiler, Corey.
Sorry, spoiler for those of you that
I do like that. I do like
spoiler
that too.
For a movie that's 20 years old. Crazy.
Yeah, he goes full Iceman in there. Okay. Any body language?
Something that a line that I really didn't like. In fact, just the whole scene is the end where the president is addressing the nation and they all teleport into the Oval Office.
Mm-hmm.
And the X-Men come off like very threatening and like terroristy. Like when Professor X says, Mr. President, we're here to stay. The next movie's yours. And Wolverine's like, we'll be watching. Man, that doesn't fit with the vibe. Like, you just seem very antagonistic there. That does not seem like a way that you'd want to, foster relationships.
It was an ill-advised line, Logan. Shouldn't have said it.
Yeah. Oh, but see, Bryan Singer talks about that line, though. And actually, the importance in that line from Bryan Singer's perspective is that Logan includes himself as part of an X-Men, whereas before, he was, it was a relationship of convenience. Like, he was just about, he wanted, Xavier's help to find out, where he came from and all that stuff. But now he's fully on board. So when he says we'll be watching, he's including himself as part of the larger group.
Yeah. Listen here, defender of Martha. Why did you say that name?
That was one of the greatest scenes in cinema history.
So
good. All right. Anyway, I'm just going to drop that and we're going to move on. We'll pretend like I didn't say it.
Hey, Corey, what do you think of the warehouse scene?
Hands down.
Was the Nightcrawler scene better or worse than the warehouse scene? Anyway, I appreciate that that's what happened there. Like, Wolverine includes himself. But I think there is a way that could have happened without them coming off as terrorists.
Mm. Yes. Apparently it works, though, by the time you get to the third movie. Again, now Corey's spoiling, I'm going to spoil. There's, Beast is on the cabinet, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But was he appointed because the president was scared?
He was. He was very scared.
Anyway.
Yeah. Let's see. We talked about the Berserker Rage. We talked about a little bit about the Wolverine versus Deathstrike fight, which is still amazing. That thing holds up. I think that's a great freaking fight. It's so good.
Versus the girl, what's her name?
Yeah, Lady Deathstrike.
I thought it was a good fight. I did have to wonder in the middle of that fight, why do we keep stabbing each other? We know we're just healing. Like, we're just...
You saw Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
The car.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
That Honda Odyssey.
Because it looks cool, Corey.
Okay, because I just was like, okay, but you stab and then, oh, that hurt. But guess what? I'm fine.
It looks cool. And it sounds cool.
Like at some point, you think one of them would be like, "Hey, can we talk this out, please?" So
like
we
we're
can
just gonna
stop
have
stabbing
to.
each other.
Let's just box it out like people. I don't know. Like, what do you
I'm
do?
gonna fight you now. Yeah. We did talk a little bit about Wolverine kind of settling into the role, or I should say, Hugh Jackman settling into the role. With the first movie, I believe I remember hearing like that, like the mutton chops and everything. That's all like makeup and stuff. They like slapped those on him. Like this is homegrown, like because he was, he'd been Wolverine before. And so his hair is even more stylized at this point. I saw something that just made me chuckle that, they were worried about doing the full on costume and yet he has comic accurate hair. Like, where do you draw the line? Because his hair is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It looks like a helmet.
In the first movie, it looks more just like a guy that doesn't care and maybe like slept on it funny multiple nights in a row and didn't take a shower or something.
Yeah.
Like it fits the character. This one, though, it looks like he spent too much time in front of the mirror with some like hair gel or something. I don't like it. I
do like the Cyclops visor. I think that's pretty sleek. In this one, it's definitely smaller. I think I like the look of that better than the other one. Looked like he had bare headphones on the side and then attached, sunglasses or whatever.
Yeah, it just makes me sad. I really wish that what is that actor's name that plays Cyclops? I forget his name.
James Marsden.
Yeah. I wish he would have gotten some sort of callback in Deadpool and Wolverine.
For sure.
Because I really feel like he's a fantastic actor and he kind of got shafted in all three of these movies. Spoiler,
100%.
in the third one, he dies like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
In a really dumb way. Like, I don't know. It just
off screen
frustrates me.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that I really do like the thing I like the most is the Nightcrawler makeup. That is ridiculous. It is so good, even down in its
down to his
blue
hands.
body paint, like the scars, like super stylized. One for every sin, all that stuff. Even down, and I've forgotten he has hooved hands, and they don't make a big deal out of it, but you do see it occasionally, and like, oh, that's right, he's got hooved hands,
and it looks good. It does not look like prosthetics. Like it is.
Nope.
Well
Him
done.
and Mystique,
and they do
that's
a lot of
part of that
close-ups.
real. That's what I'm saying. It's not the CGI stuff. Like this was back in 2003. They were really filming sets and really doing some of that makeup for some of these details like that. That was an art that I think has kind of been lost sometimes.
Did either of you? Did you see this movie in theater?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so the scene while we're talking about makeup and whatnot, the scene where they're on Bobby's front porch and the police officer tells Wolverine to put the knives down. I can't, and then the officer very quickly shoots him in the head. Wow, that was escalated quickly. I remember with very clear images when that bullet comes out of Logan's head and plops on the ground. It was a full unmashed bullet, like just a not smushed on his skull at all. I clearly remember that because I even remember my brother, who I went to go see it with, mentioning how stupid it was that was still a full bullet. And now it's mushed up when it comes out. And I was trying to, and maybe this is like a Mandela effect thing, but
it might
I was trying
be.
to find another cut of the movie. Do either of you remember that being a full bullet?
No, I don't.
I have no recollection.
I have no recollection of that.
But sometimes, even that happened with Star Wars early release. That you could get different cuts of movies that would be sent out. So
Yeah, I was just trying to find some evidence of that because that's so clear in my brain, and I want to know that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Well,
Okay.
speaking of props, I'm going to move us down to setting and design. How do you like that segue? I really like the underground layer is my favorite set in this thing. That thing is so impressive, and I know that was in some of the background stuff. Stryker's underground layer is huge.
Yes.
I mean, I know that it's not as big as it appears to be, but they built a lot of that, and you get to see the Cerebro scene set again, which was impressive in the first movie, and they redress it so you get that because there's two Cerebros in this one. In a lot of it is, we talked about, Corey, you mentioned this too. It's not CGI.
No.
They're moving things around, redressing things. The White House is also a great set.
The museum.
I believe it's there. Yeah.
The number of extras they had in that when they froze that scene, that was a lot of work. That was not, you know what I mean? They were in the background, but they all froze for that museum scene when Pyro was kind of abusing his powers. And I mean, that was there's a lot in there too.
I wonder, and this seems like a question that Craig might know the answer to. Do they ever reuse the sets for the Oval Office? Because I mean, that Oval Office is in so many movies. Are they rebuilding that for every single movie, or do they ever say, "Hey, this was used by the studio 5 years ago. Let's just hop back in and"?
I know that they do, and it's escaping me right now because I remember this came up when we talked about Oppenheimer. That set is from a TV show, and I don't remember which one it is. It might have been Veep. I don't remember offhand, but yeah, those things do get reused. They're not always rebuilding a brand new one every single time.
Oh, okay.
So,
because that's got to be one of the more popular sets in movies and
TV. Sure. We talked about the plastic prison last time, and I think it's what a great design.
Yeah.
The one thing I liked a lot, and then again, the director's commentary on these are great, and I haven't watched it in a long time, but I remember hearing, and it reminded me when I watched it this time, that did you guys notice what's on Pyro's lighter?
He had some kind of logo on it. What was it?
It's a shark. It's a Jaws reference, because if it's not his favorite movie, it's one of his favorite movies. Bryan Singer loves Jaws. That's why his production company is called Bad Hat Harry, because that's a line from Jaws. That's some bad hat, Harry. So huge Jaws fan. So that's why there's a shark on Pyro's lighter.
Oh.
Yeah. Any other props or set design things that we need to talk about before we move on?
We already talked about Stryker's underground lair, but just that computer room with all the monitors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very functional. Sometimes you look at rooms like that and everything is, it's like, okay, why do they have so many screens, or why are there so many buttons? But it looks very used and lived in, and I love that in films. It looks really, really good. You can go online and look at some of the set images from there, and it's just a lot of I feel like a lot of thought went into good chunks of it, and I appreciate that.
Those office buildings, it looks very 70s to me. It feels used, and it's not a modern design at all.
So the other thing is in the Stryker's lair, the thing that I had to wonder when I saw this was some of the flashback scenes that Logan was having were actually flash forwards to the movie that was going to come out for Origins. They had to go back and recreate that set, or did they save that set? I mean, because whatever they wrote in here, they had to keep for the Origins movie. That animanium tank that he's in. Well, he pops out of that tank screaming exactly like he does in this one. It's a pretty different set. It looks the same, but the layout of the room is very different.
Okay. Yeah, again, continuity in X-Men
more detailed than I remembered it.
It's a fluid concept.
Okay.
Did you guys see? I believe there's a shot in that room though with the adamantium vat. I think it's angels' wings that are up on the There's a blueprint or what do you call it? An X-ray.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's a blink and you miss it. I remember seeing that a long time ago, but
like Archangel.
Yes, that guy.
When he has the metallic wings.
What's his name? Worthington. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah. Alan, maybe? I don't know.
I thought it was 3 W's. But
no, I did not catch that.
Yeah. So lots of Easter eggs in this film. So
I do like that we got to see some other mutants as well. That was Colossus. I feel like we need to give a little shout out to him.
Yeah, that's awesome. A natural.
We don't see him later until Deadpool, but I guess we see him in the third one.
Yeah, he's in the third one. Yeah, we're move down to characters. That's a natural thing. So, we have. I'm looking for his name. Daniel Cudmore plays Colossus, and of course, he's completely rebooted for Deadpool. And then I was like, I like
which it does great in Deadpool.
Yeah. We had Alan Cumming is the only newcomer. Other than Brian Cox, Alan Cumming plays Kurt Wagner / Nightcrawler. And
he's great.
Excellent job.
He's a Bond character, right? And so is Famke Janssen. They were in the same movie together.
In GoldenEye. Yep.
And GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan back in '95. I'm invincible. That's what I know him from. So when I see him in movies, that's all I think of is that I'm invincible.
Yeah, he's done movies and theater, and he'll always be that guy for me.
Yeah,
from GoldenEye.
I absolutely think that.
Oh, that's who that is.
Yep.
All these years,
all these actors are connected to each other. And then they're also connected to Kevin Bacon. See, so 6 degrees Kevin Bacon.
That's true.
Oh, he's pretty unrecognizable in this role. I did not know that was him.
Yeah. We have an early Kitty Pryde in this one before she's recast. Katie Stewart plays that. Yeah, there's tons of cameos. Like we mentioned, Beast is in this. Jubilee is in this. Kia Wong, I believe, is how you say her name. Which being a huge fan of the X-Men cartoon, when it wasn't not the original group of mutants that I'm used to seeing, I was like, "Where's Jubilee?" And even though Jubilee's not, just speaking of cheesy powers, right? She does like fireworks or whatever. But it was nice. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the characters that I like that I've seen in this cartoon that I like." So
I believe she's in the first one as well, right? I think she's sitting in that class
I think
next to
you're
Rogue.
right. Yep. It looks like we did have a Gambit cameo shot, but we didn't actually get the footage in the final cut. So, yeah. Anything else character-wise before we move down to the next section here? What we talk about, everybody?
No.
Okay. As far as Hero's Journey goes, it's again it's not that kind of movie,
Not that
but
kind of
it
style.
is. I think the biggest thing we have is we talked about this a lot, that it is Logan's story in a lot of ways, and it really is kind of his showing him firmly taking a side, that he is now officially permanently an X-Man,
Yes.
and that's what
Wait,
the whole.
are you saying there's not Hero's Journey? Because there totally is.
Okay, well, explain.
Right?
For who?
Yeah, we got. Well, I guess not. I guess if we'd have to more look at it at like a 3-movie arc. Like it definitely exists in the first one. I think a complete arc, but then it kind of travels over all 3 movies. Like we have Logan, who's not really interested in the call, and then he has
Yes.
the mentor in Charles, right?
Ooh,
you
I
don't have
like
a death
this.
of a mentor. I know you don't have to hit every single.
You do in Logan.
every single point here.
Well, and we do in Last Stand. So I think
We
if
do
you're
in
going to
Last
look
Stand
at,
as well.
if you're going to look at Logan as the hero's journey as the protagonist for that, I think you could make an argument for that. So when we get to
Yeah,
Last
I mean,
Stand,
it's not as clear cut, but
let's definitely
I think it's
revisit
there.
that when we get to Last Stand and talk and see if we can kind of map that through, because I think you're right, Justin.
I know, I'm pretty amazing. Thank you.
I mean, we have Pyro becoming kind of a sympathetic villain in this. That's kind of the villain's journey, if you will. And I remember there being some talk when the first movie came out that it was a different actor that played Pyro in the first movie, just briefly in it. But I remember I had a roommate who was a big comic book fan that was like, "Why is he there? He's a bad guy." I'm like, well, that's because they're gonna get there.
Thinking of his
Yeah, and
arc, that makes more sense now. That scene in the beginning where he's abusing his power and kind of being a jerk to those guys in the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And he's told, the next time you feel like abusing your powers, don't.
Yep.
To where Magneto says, you're a god among the insects. Of course he's going to go walk. Like you said, Craig, any 16-year-old, he just fed your ego and turned you into a villain. Because the first one, the head guy was saying, don't use your powers like that. And then this guy's saying, you're a god among insects. So
Yeah, the Anakin Skywalker. Him.
holy cow, that's kind of, okay.
They did
I get
Anakin
that.
Skywalker.
There's a payoff there. Okay.
Yeah, that's right next to that big bowl of foreshadowing.
Yeah. It's not a bad movie. I'll take it.
Okay, good. Let's see. Anything else for world building? I mean, like it's our projected future. Essentially, it's basically grounded. I mean, that was kind of the whole idea behind this series. They were basically grounded, not super fantastic. A lot more to Logan's backstory, as we've talked about.
I don't think you need a lot of world building if you just say it's our world. Boom, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we think that this can still exist? Like, could this be a pre-MCU MCU? Could this exist in the same world as Daredevil and Spider-Man and Blade?
I mean, I still think so. I don't see anything that breaks that.
This came out, that Spidey and Friends, remember that movie or that cartoon that came out? And he teamed up with the X-Men.
Yeah, but the animated one that was on Fox Afternoons, that one.
I think so. Wasn't it
Yeah.
Spidey? Because he had the Iceman.
Yeah, so this is a little bit later than that. Yeah.
Iceman was in it.
Oh, you're Spidey and his Amazing Friends?
Oh, yeah, that one.
From the early 80s, yeah,
Yeah.
with Firestar, who later got incorporated. Yeah, we watched that with my kids. No, I
think it's hard.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Justin.
Oh, I think it's hard, like, going back to the idea, could this exist in a world with other superheroes? This is not my idea. This is stolen from many people. I think it's really hard to put X-Men in a world with any other superheroes.
Yeah.
Because X-Men's whole idea is that they are, like, they are othered, right? They can't be part of us. They're different. So how do you do that in a world where people accept Spider-Man as existing? Like, to the general public, Spider-Man and a mutant would be the same person. So how are you okay with Spider-Man, but you're not okay with Wolverine as a society?
Yeah.
So, and I feel like the MCU is going to really struggle with that too, as they incorporate more X-Men stuff. Like, how do you speak to like the core ideas of what makes the X-Men franchise different? How do you put that in the same world as everything else? I feel like it always works better as a standalone. It never is. It's always in the world, but to me, it doesn't really make sense that it would be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Spider-Man really is the thing it's the monkey in the wrench, because Blade exists in the shadows. Like he and Daredevil both are basically urban legends, if anything. So they could easily coexist with the X-Men and would just not know about it. Right? The general public doesn't know. It's like the alligators in the sewers. It's the same kind of deal. But yeah, Spider-Man's super public, in broad daylight. They
love him. Give him the key to the city and all that stuff. And
Yep.
He's a menace.
Because the general public, who's to say Spider-Man's not a mutant if they exist in the same world?
Yep. That's a good point. All right. Well, that brings us to final thoughts. Any other things we want to talk about before we get out of here on X2, X-Men United? Corey, did you change your mind? Did you change your opinion?
Listen, I think it's a solidly acted movie, right? I'm going to give it, there's some stellar cast in here. I feel like it's just real deep on Logan, but then doesn't really get us too far ahead of his story, other than just to see Alki Lake or wherever he's from. It's a good movie. I enjoy it. I enjoy the characters. You guys point out some things that make me go and appreciate it more. Like to say, okay, that's really good. I didn't catch that watching it. Was caught up in my own, like, oh, it's all right story. And so now I'm like, okay, this is a better story than I realized when I watched it. So, well done. You won me over.
Okay, next up, Blade Runner. We're going to win him over on that one.
Oh, that can't be done, sir.
Let's start with watching the right
There's
version.
no way.
Justin, final thoughts?
I'm just curious for you two. The Nightcrawler scene, is that better or worse than the Daredevil bar fight scene? I wasn't here last week, but I know you guys talked about that scene.
I can't compare those two.
The bar fight scene, Corey, in the theatrical version, in the alternate version or the director's cut, that was such a good scene.
It's brutal. The Nightcrawler scene is like balletic almost.
Yeah.
Balletic? Is that a word? I like it.
Yes. Ooh. Well, and you got the classical music.
Okay, right.
So you got Mozart going there.
Yeah,
and it's well lit.
2 Mozart references in our podcast. Hello, rich people. Jeez,
it's beautiful. I think what I will say is I will give the nod to Nightcrawler in that fact that I think that holds up in a way that I don't know if the Daredevil one does.
All right.
But there's a lot going on with, like, when you're the sound design too. Like, I'm torn because the sound design in that Daredevil fight, with the Nickelback song coming in and out and the bullets and the Doppler effect.
Yes.
I mean,
I don't think anyone has ever used Nickelback as like a positive. Hey, well done.
I unironically love Nickelback.
Listen.
Okay.
Let's stop
Ryan
with the Nickelback
has made it safe
hate.
for us, and I appreciate that. It's like music.
You know,
but it sucks.
you didn't make fun of me much for liking NSYNC, so I'm not going to make fun of you much for liking Nickelback.
Hey, yeah.
Call it even.
Poor Chad Kroger's voice is bad now. That guy. Poor guy.
I mean, the sound design, though, in the Nightcrawler scene, you got, like you said, you got the BAMF in there.
They're both great.
They're hard to compare. They're both good. Good. But overall thoughts. I really like this movie. It's my favorite of the X-Men movies. I think this one withstands the test of time much better than the other two. It's like the movie finally, or the franchise kind of got its legs in this second film, and then is quickly undercut in the third one. But
sad.
It was good. I would like to see like a director's cut of this film at some point, because there's just so much to like here, and I think it's, with the exception of like the characters that really don't really have time to be characters because of Wolverine, it's incredibly well done. I like it.
Yeah. For me, it's much the same way that I felt about Spider-Man and then Spider-Man 2 is how I felt about X-Men and then X2, is that I liked Spider-Man okay, loved Spider-Man 2. Liked X-Men okay, and then X2 I went in with, I'm going to see it because it's a comic book movie and that's kind of a genre that I like, and was like, wow, okay, this is next level. They've ratcheted up the action, storytelling's deeper, the world building is all set up in the first movie, and so you kind of just hit the ground running. And even though it's longer, it feels tighter and leaner to me in a lot of ways. And yeah, you can't talk about this movie without going, and then he doesn't get to finish his movie, the trilogy. Because there's scheduling conflicts, and he leaves to make Superman Returns, which underperforms as well, and it just it's like a lose-lose for comic book fans.
Yeah.
But as far as this movie in and of itself, it does feel like they've kind of cracked the code. They're getting closer to what becomes with the MCU. This is in every way, in my opinion, an improvement over the first movie. And it's exciting for what's coming. It's going to be a little bit of a letdown for our next film, though.
Trilogies. That third one's rough every time.
It's always.
Yeah. So, on that downer of a note, we're going to close and say, again, thanks so much for listening. Hope you had as much fun as we did. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com, or use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and review us on iTunes or Spotify. And our next episode, as we move chronologically through Marvel before the MCU, is Ang Lee's Hulk. Send us an email or voicemail about your favorite moments from Hulk, and we'll share it on the next episode.